Hello and welcome everyone to our webinar series, Generative Entrepreneur, where business leaders and technical innovators come together to accelerate AI applications to market and scale them to production. My name is Puneet Jeyasingh, and I'm a Cloud and AI Partner Solution Architect in the Enterprise Partner Solutions organization at Microsoft. I work closely with software development companies and system integrators to drive impactful AI outcomes. Welcome, everyone, to today's episode. Ignite 2025 was packed with the momentum around cloud and AI. So, before we dive into the specifics, let's ground ourselves with Microsoft's broader AI strategy. On that, and tell us about what is Microsoft's AI strategy going into 2027.
I think what's beautiful about our AI strategy is Microsoft no longer is opinionated on what tools you need to leverage or what models are available to you. We're really allowing you to use any model, any use case, and you can run it on one platform. And I think this is a really great announcement because as a developer, now if I want to bring any model that I like or any tool or any knowledge base, I have the choice that I can make those decisions for myself and ensure it meets those standards or requirements that I have building those applications. But one of the big ones that I was very surprised by at first was this build anywhere strategy. When it comes to build anywhere, now through Microsoft Foundry, we're going to have the ability to monitor these agentic workloads cross platform and cross cloud. So if they're running on AWS or GCP, we can start to use our control plane to monitor those workloads. And if you want to build them and deploy them in other clouds, that's great also. The third one, which I thought was a really nice clarification that we didn't have in the past, is also now we're cross-platform with those agentic workloads. So when we think about AI and agentic workloads, we've always thought about them being in the Azure platform with Foundry, but now we can also take those same agents and publish them into our M365 platform or build them natively in M365 and say publish them in Dynamics or publish them in Azure. So now one agent can run across the Microsoft suite of platforms. And the last two, which I think are really significant ones and are really core design principles that we will have going forward in our roadmap, is around trustworthy AI and enterprise security and governance. These two are going to be really critical for our enterprises to gain trust in Microsoft to run these workloads in our platform and to ensure that they have the tools to ensure we meet their safeguards. So those were some really big announcements and really the core pillars of our AI strategy.
I absolutely love this. Build anywhere, every model, every use case, one platform with trustworthy AI and built-in governance. So let's talk about where all this strategy becomes real. And so tell me, what exactly is Microsoft Foundry and why was it the start of Ignite this year?
It was a great announcement that we were focusing on a developer tool. Microsoft Foundry runs in the Azure platform, and it's an IDE that we can use to, say, from a pro code or a low code option, build agents or AI models natively within Azure. Foundry used to be called the Azure AI Foundry in the past, and so one of the big announcements was around the name change. So that's kind of its lineage. Maybe in the old days it was called Azure AI Studio. But one of the big things is overall that Microsoft Foundry, since we're no longer just focusing on the Azure platform, but we also can build these and publish them into Microsoft 365, we changed that name to Microsoft. And then the children that are within this overall service are things such as models, which have been there in the past, agent service, or machine learning. But two net new ones that we'll talk more about later is around Foundry IQ and Foundry Tools. Those will be some net new offerings along with Foundry Control Plane. So this will be our development suite where we can start to build those agentic workloads.
I think that sounds amazing. You just mentioned a Foundry agent service, and that there was a big upgrade introduced around that. So tell me more about the Foundry agent service.
Yeah, the agent service really comes in two big ways. One is we announced at Ignite a new tool called the Agent Workflow. And it's a UX experience where it's a drag and drop interface, low code, where someone can build their multi-agent workflows without the need to be a developer and using things such as C# or Python. But what's also really cool about the agent service is it went from a single agent platform to a multi-agent platform. Now, I can't use the word declarative. That one's a little bit tough for me. But when it comes to single agent platforms, typically we have one agent that had one task assigned to it. But we might want an agent to have the ability to do one business process, but there's multiple tasks required. So if you think about, say, accounts payable system, you might have to look at that journal entry. You might need to understand what the actual SOX compliance rules are, and you might then need to actually update that if it's out of compliance. You might have multiple agents doing each individual task, and that's what a multi-agent workflow is, and the Foundry agent service can support that. The other big piece that they announced was the ability to include memory. And memory is going to be our ability to have the agent understand what was some of the questions that were asked previously, so it understands what that conversation chain looks like, and potentially it can understand what previous actions it took, so it doesn't have to repeat those LLM calls and save from a cost perspective. And lastly, and this we'll talk about shortly, is the hosted agent. When we talk about hosted agents and that multi-agent workflow, we can use agent framework and bring that into a serverless compute layer, and the hosted agent will be that service compute layer where we can potentially run agent framework or LangChain, and now have an interface where we don't have to worry about scale. We don't have to worry about setting up our containers. All that's being done for us, and all we need to do is publish it. So those are really the two big announcements for the agent service.
That's amazing. And I really did hear at Ignite that the real customers are actually using this today. Like, for example, BMW for the multi-agent data processing and Commerce Bank for customer operations. And for the developers, the Foundry story continues with the Microsoft Agent Framework. So how does Microsoft Agent Framework fit into the bigger picture?
Well, this is now going to be a unified, say, SDK or framework for our developers. So if you are a pro code or code first developer, you're going to want to use C# or Python. Those are the two programming languages that are supported to build your different agentic workloads. We can think of this as an orchestration layer. Historically speaking, Microsoft had semantic kernel, and we also had AutoGen. And those two frameworks were independent. So when I use the word unified, we're bringing those two together along with Foundry SDK. So we have one set of classes and functions available to us to leverage in building out our own custom agents that sit out there. What's really beautiful about Agent Framework is that it also has a capability to integrate within Purview or within ChatKit, which is an OpenAI, say, user interface, and that ChatKit is an SDK that allows you to kind of mimic that chat experience that you would have with OpenAI if you want to. Now, this is in public preview, and a really key piece here is if you're using semantic kernel today, you can use semantic kernel in the future. If you want to get the latest and greatest, it would be beneficial for you to upgrade or migrate to Agent Framework. Today it's in public preview, so I wouldn't migrate today. I would be learning what's the latest and greatest, and you can see the shortcut here to understand what the new framework looks like. And when we release this to GA, we have a migration guide at that same shortcut where you can then understand what you need to do to transition that over from semantic kernel to Agent Framework. But we recommend you to make that migration at the time that permits for you, so that you can in the future get the latest and greatest upgrades that are coming to Framework.
I think that's amazing. Like, this is so cool. And even Foundry IQ was introduced at Ignite as a unified knowledge layer. So what exactly is Foundry IQ, and why is it important?
I think this was one of the big game changers when it came to the announcements. And this is what we call our intelligence layer. When we talk about intelligence layer, there's three different IQs that sit out there. So we have an IQ, which we call Work IQ for the M365 platform. We have a Fabric IQ for our Fabric platform. And we also now have Foundry IQ, which will be for our Azure workloads that sit out there. Now, Foundry IQ is powered by Azure AI Search. And if you listen to Microsoft Mechanics, Pablo Castro has a great in-depth discussion on this topic. I'll do it at more of a high level. And I think what's really important to realize is what does this do for you? Like, what is the value add to our customers? It's really helping you accelerate your time to market and improving the accuracy of the models. Who doesn't want that? We would all love to do things faster and better. And Foundry IQ empowers you to do that by providing what we would call automated data pipelines. So if you think about a RAG database, which is retrieval augmented generation, that capability was something that took a long time for a developer like me to create. I had to find my data sources. I had to crack the documents, which means open. I had to chunk those documents, so I put them in different segments. I then had to vectorize them and then finally index them. That whole workflow and that pipeline I built was quite complex. And not everybody can do it. And more importantly, not everybody really had the time to invest in it. And so now, with the set of sources that sit out there, be it first party sources like OneLake, SharePoint, or Azure AI Search, we can use those or third party connections through MCP servers to build out those indexes and to build out those knowledge bases so that we can provide the best data to the model without having to say do a lot of experimentation and testing. This is a really core piece. And when it comes to Foundry IQ, it's also going to help us from an integration perspective. So if we want to use Foundry, Foundry IQ is available to us, but we can also use it with Copilot Studio and with Fabric platforms. So it's cross-platform.
That's amazing. So it sounds like that the knowledge backbone for enterprise safe agentic systems.
Yeah, and one of the things I forgot to say, which I think is really critical, is on Foundry IQ, it's not just having a knowledge base that's being auto-generated for you and current. It also, from a user query perspective, if I ask a question of that model, it'll now determine which knowledge base is the best one for it. So in the old days, you only really had one knowledge base that had a lot of information in it. Now we can have multiple knowledge bases, and Foundry IQ will determine when the question's being asked which knowledge base is the best fit for that question. So it really helps strengthen the amount of context we can provide to a model.
Awesome. No, that's great. So tell us more about the tools, throughout the agent lifecycle.
Yeah, when it comes to Foundry tools, this was a good one because, say, top of mind for everybody, and one of the biggest, conversations we have is around MCP clients and servers. And MCP, or Model Context Protocol, has been a really popular term for us to make sure that, be it our, excuse me, knowledge bases or our tools are basically interoperable, and we can plug those into our AI workloads. Foundry Tools now provides a catalog of MCP servers. And what's great about Foundry Tools is Microsoft is bringing in a set of pre-built tools that we've had historically. So things like content understanding or language or speech. These pre-built tools in the old days were called cognitive services. Those come under this service now, plus third-party ones. So things like ServiceNow has a set of MCP servers that might give, say, the latest status of a case that sits out there. And those third-party tools will make that platform much more interoperable. So I'll be able to get more information, but I'll also be able to take more action with those third-party tools. So if I wanted to update that, say, ticket with the latest status from that agent, I can also, through that agent, do actions. And then lastly, and this will be really important for our enterprise customers, you have a private tool catalog. So if there's proprietary data that you do not want in the Azure cloud and you want to keep it on-premise, or maybe you've built a set of reservation systems that are providing, say, the latest booking information, information, you can provide that as an MCP server and publish it to your own private catalog as a customer. And now only you and you by yourself will have access to leveraging that private catalog.
Awesome. And Ignite unveiled more than 1,000 curated tools within Foundry tools, and they are all following the MCP standards, so which is actually great. And Model Router also went GA at Ignite. And Jason, what do you think that it unlocks for anyone building agents in Foundry?
This is a great cost saver. And I think it unlocks two things. One is one of the hardest parts about our job as developers is trying to figure out what is the best model for a given use case. And sometimes, like we always say, it depends. There might be a multitude of different models that are the best. And Model Router doesn't make you force you just to pick one. It allows you to pick many, and thus it simplifies that model evaluation. We still recommend that you evaluate all the models, so don't try an all the above approach. Take, say, your top 3 or 4 models that sit out there, and for different types of questions, certain models might be more applicable than others. And Model Router, based on that user question, will determine which model is the best suited for it based from an accuracy, a performance, and a cost perspective. And then it will submit that query to the given model. So there's a lot of great cost savings that sit out here. And now that it's GA, we can move this into production. And this is one reason why I added this one, because I think for a lot of organizations, this is going to be a big winner.
That's amazing. So agent identity was again a big theme at Ignite. And so tell us more about Microsoft's Entra Agent ID.
For sure. And this goes into that component that I was talking about, enterprise security and governance, as one of our AI strategies. When we think about Microsoft Entra ID, I'll say prior to Ignite, a lot of the feedback that I heard from our customers and our partners were that our product was not production ready, and it was a core blocker to get into production if you couldn't control what those agents were able to do. With this Ignite announcement and the Entra ID, now we can provide control over what is happening with those agents. Now, what's really critical here is, just like any human within Microsoft Entra, we assign them a user account. We can now do that same thing with agents and provide them an agent ID. If we think about agency, and in, say, some of our blog posts that we have out there, we talk about how one worker can be the boss of many agents. Well, if I'm going to be the boss of the agent, those agents might need to be registered in Entra, because I want to understand what they're doing and observe and prevent and ensure the policies of my organizations and the guardrails that are in Entra not just apply to the humans, but also apply to the agents. And this Entra Agent ID will enable that. Two core things is, if I am doing a development or a test workload, I don't want to have every agent in Entra ID. I will just, at the project level for Microsoft Foundry, have one ID for that project, and any agent that sits in what we call unpublished state now will be able to use Entra, and all those agents will have one ID. If I publish that agent, meaning I bring it into production, now every individual agent will have its unique ID, and then from an observability and tracing perspective, I'll know exactly what they did, and I can enforce the policies to ensure that those, say, tasks or those agents don't drift.
You bring us to the right topic, observability. So to operate these identities and these agents and scale, we need that visibility. So what does observability in Foundry brings it to the enterprise AI?
I was really happy. I was able to go to Ignite, and I was at the booth, the Ask Expert booth, covering observability. And this one, I saw so much excitement from customers who are coming wanting to learn more. And just like on the security component, this one was, hey, I have a lot of agents, but they're sitting in dev and test, and I have no faith or confidence or want to take the risk to bring them to production because I don't know what they're doing. And you guys need to show me, like the old adage, trust but verify. How am I supposed to do this if I don't have a tool to leverage? And Foundry Plane brings that observability layer to us. So I can monitor those individual agents and understand how many tokens they have. If it's breaking the bank from a cost perspective, I can see if they're available or not. But I can also, if say that agent is starting to drift and are doing things that we quote don't want it to do or didn't intend it or design it for, I now through traceability can quickly see what's happening with that agent to then determine if I need to take that agent offline or not. And as I said at the very beginning about our strategy, the part that really knocked my pants off when I was listening to the announcement and had to read a little more to make sure I wasn't going crazy was this idea of gaining fleet-wide visibility and control. I sat down with one of the PMs to make sure that I didn't misread this, and they told me, yes, if we want to be able to monitor agents that are sitting within our platform, be it M365 or Dynamics, we can do that. But more importantly, if we want to monitor those that sit in AWS and GCP, because from a fleet-wide perspective, those agents are interactive and in some business process workflow, more the merrier. That's totally supported. And Foundry Control Plane brings all those great capabilities. And now we should have no hesitation in moving those workloads to production, both with Intra and Control Plane. Both these should give you the confidence and the traceability and ability to verify these workloads to move those in production.
And Carmex showed during one of the demos that how this enables faster troubleshooting, safer deployments, and confidence at scale. So while Microsoft expanding its own model ecosystem, it's also double downing on a model choice, including Anthropic. So that was another big headline was Claude. What does Anthropic Claude bring to Foundry?
Well, as you said, model choice would be one of the primary benefits of this announcement. When in Foundry, now you don't have to use, say, just our Azure OpenAI models or our Phi models. You can use any model of choice that sits out there, and Anthropic's going to be one of them. So if you're a big Vibe coder and you're using GitHub Copilot, any of the cloud models will be great for that workload and many other workloads Anthropic is great for. But I'd like to just take a minute because everybody got excited that Anthropic was in Azure. I think what was really the bigger piece of news was really Microsoft taking the leadership position or the pole position in the AI marketplace. With this announcement, we're the only provider that are providing both OpenAI models and cloud models in our platform. But more importantly, when they made this announcement, Ashish Sharma and Mike Krieger, he was the VP of product development at Anthropic. They were really talking about the partnership being good for each other because Anthropic wanted to be on the #1 enterprise cloud, and they felt by going to Azure, all enterprises are running their workloads, or a good majority of enterprise are running their workloads on Azure. And what they liked is their company culture around trustworthy AI was actually one that Microsoft cherished, and they thought both of us really valued that trustworthy AI story. So I think that market sentiment is really important because in after hours conversations, be it through third-party vendors like NVIDIA or through Anthropic, they were really sharing that this partnership will be great for enterprise businesses. And that I think is really going to give us a leadership position in this space going forward.
Amazing. So speaking of running models, Ignite also expanded how and where you can deploy them. So Foundry Local got a lot of buzz. So Jason, what do you think the teams can do with it now?
Well, this one was a announcement that has been an ongoing announcement. We also had this at Build, where we talked about Foundry Local. But what happened at Ignite is a lot richer experience. Now we can run this not just on a Windows-based platform, but we can run this on a Kubernetes-based platform. And what this means is I can take an agentic or AI workload, and instead of having to only run it in Azure, now I can run it on my local say data center premise. So what this means is no longer do I need to be connected in disconnected workloads or in highly secure private confidential computing workloads. we can take and run Azure Local on that local hardware. And what's really great about it is you don't have to be a OpenVINO programmer or a CUDA programmer. It'll optimize that code set that's being built in Python or being built in C# to run on the local CPU, GPU, or NPU. So it'll be optimized for whatever hardware profile, and you will not have to pick and choose your models based on your edge device. And lastly, it's not going to have the full catalog of, say, 11,000 models that sit out there. It's going to have a subset, but over time, through more and more more and more conferences, it'll then start expanding that catalog. And we have to be real. This is not probably going to be doing large language models. So if we're trying to bring, say, our Azure OpenAI models to local compute, probably not going to happen. But when it comes to our medium and small language models, a lot of those will be brought over. And so it'll give you a lot of the capabilities that you need for a majority of the workloads.
Awesome. No, these were some great updates, Jason. So now let's bring it all together. It's now truly build agents your way, anywhere, with any model, governed end to end. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for the future sessions.
Thank you, Puneet.